Captain Hannah Kim walked through the residential section of Station Gamma like she did every evening. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floors. The lights were dim because it was night cycle. Most aliens were in their quarters, resting after a long day. Hannah liked the quiet hours. She could think clearly. She checked each door and window, making sure everyone was safe. That was her job. She had been a security officer for 3 years now, and she was good at it. But tonight felt different. Hannah heard small footsteps behind her. Tap, tap, tap. She stopped. The footsteps stopped too. She turned around quickly. 3 small creatures sat on the floor, looking up at her. They had blue-gray fur and big golden eyes. Their ears were pointed and stood straight up. Each one was about the size of a house cat. Hannah knew what they were. Valkyrian cubs. Baby aliens from one of the proudest species in the galaxy. "Hello, little ones," Hannah said softly. "Where's your parent?" The cubs just stared at her. Their tails swished back and forth. They did not run away. Hannah started walking again. The footsteps followed. She stopped. They stopped. She walked faster. They walked faster too, staying exactly 3 meters behind her. This was strange. Very strange. Valkyrian cubs never left their family dens. Never. And they certainly never followed other species around. Hannah pressed her communication badge. "This is Kim. I need assistance in residential section. See, we have a situation." 2 minutes later, Officer Taiyang arrived. He was a young human, new to the station. His eyes went wide when he saw the cubs. "Captain Kim, why are those cubs following you?" he asked. "I don't know," Hannah said honestly. "They just started following me during my patrol." Taiyang stepped toward the cubs. They made a low growling sound and moved closer to Hannah. Taiyang stepped back quickly. "They don't want me near them," he said. "But they're following you. How is that possible?" Before Hannah could answer, a massive creature ran around the corner. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, with the same blue-gray fur as the cubs, but darker. Sharp teeth showed when it breathed heavily. This was a Valkyrian adult. "My cubs!" The creature roared. "Where are my cubs?" "Sir, please calm down," Hannah said, holding up her hands. "Your cubs are right here. They are safe." The Valkyrian looked down and saw the 3 small ones sitting behind Hannah. Relief flooded his face, but then confusion took over. "Why are they with you?" he demanded. "Cubs stay in the den. Always. Why do they follow a human?" "I don't know," Hannah said. "I was just doing my patrol." The Valkyrian father, who introduced himself as Throkmer, tried to call his cubs. He made clicking sounds with his throat. The cubs looked at him but did not move. They stayed behind Hannah. "This is impossible," Throkmer whispered. "Cubs only follow family. Only follow the den leader." More security arrived. The station commander, a stern alien named Daiho, came personally. He looked at the scene and immediately called the Valkyrian ambassador. 20 minutes later, Ambassador Krivolium arrived. He was an old Valkyrian with silver fur and wise eyes. He looked at the cubs, then at Hannah, then back at the cubs. "Officer Kim," he said slowly, "what did you do to these cubs?" "Nothing, sir," Hannah said. 2 days ago, I found them stuck in a maintenance shaft. They had crawled in there and couldn't get out. I pulled them out and took them back to their den. That's all." Krivo's eyes widened. "You went into a maintenance shaft to save them?" "Yes, sir. They were scared and crying. I couldn't just leave them there." The ambassador made a strange sound in his throat. The other Valkyrians made the same sound. It seemed to be important. "Did you ask for a reward?" Krivolium asked. "No, sir. They're just babies." I was happy they were safe. Krivol walked closer to Hannah. He bent down to study her face. "Officer Kim, I need you to try something." Walk away from the cubs. Just walk normally. Hannah nodded. She walked down the corridor, her back to the cubs. Within seconds, she heard the tap, tap, tap of small feet. The cubs were following her again, chirping softly. She stopped. They stopped. She turned around. They sat down and looked at her with those big golden eyes. Throckmer's voice shook when he spoke. In 3,000 years of Valkyrian history, cubs have only ever followed an alpha, a true pack leader, someone born to protect. But I'm human, Hannah said. We're not part of your species. How can your cubs see me as an alpha? Ambassador Crevolume looked at her with an expression that might have been respect or fear. Maybe both. That, he said quietly, is exactly what we need to find out. Because if human beings register as alphas to our cubs, everything we know about leadership and pack dynamics might be wrong. Or perhaps everything we thought we knew about your species is wrong. The smallest cub walked up to Hannah and touched her boot with one tiny paw. It made a soft, happy sound. Hannah felt her heart melt. She wanted to pick it up, but she knew she shouldn't. They don't follow anyone, Hannah said softly. I didn't ask them to. I just helped them when they needed it. Commander Daeho shook his head. Captain Kim, I'm putting you on temporary leave. We need to understand this situation before it becomes a diplomatic incident. Hannah looked down at the three cubs. They looked back at her, completely trusting. She had a feeling her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine. Dr. Jiho Park looked at the test results for the 5th time. He still couldn't believe what he was seeing. He was the station's lead xenobiologist, and in 15 years of research, he had never encountered anything like this. Captain Kim, he said, looking up from his datapad. Your pheromone readings are unusual. Hannah sat on the examination table in the medical bay. The 3 Valkyrian cubs sat on the floor nearby, watching her. They had refused to leave her side for 2 days now. Station Command had to give Hannah special quarters just to accommodate them. Unusual how? Hannah asked. When you rescued those cubs, your body released a specific chemical signature. We all have stress responses, but yours triggered something different. It's like a beacon, a signal that says protector in a language that goes beyond words. Hannah frowned. I don't understand. Dr. Jiho pulled up images on the wall screen. Most species evolve to be efficient. They develop social structures based on strength or intelligence or politics. But somewhere in that evolution, they lost something. An instinct. The ability to recognize true protectors versus those who just want power. And humans still have this? Hannah asked. Some humans, Jiho corrected. Especially those who work in protective roles. Doctors, soldiers, security officers, firefighters. People who risk themselves for others without thinking about rewards. Your brain chemistry literally changes when you act to protect someone. And these cubs can sense it. The door to the medical bay opened. A Valkyrian elder entered, moving slowly. His fur was almost white with age. He introduced himself as Counselor Hyan, and he was over 400 years old. Officer Kim, Hyan said in a deep, rumbling voice. May I approach the cubs? Of course, sir, Hannah said. Hyan walked toward the cubs. They looked at him but did not move away. That was already significant. Then the eldest cub stood up and walked to Hyan, touching his hand with its nose. It was a sign of respect. Remarkable, Hyan whispered. They acknowledge me as elder, but their loyalty stays with you. He turned to face Hannah. I must tell you something that few outside my species know. Long ago, Valkyrian cubs would follow anyone who carried the mark of a true protector. It didn't matter what species. It didn't matter what they looked like. The cubs knew. They always knew. What changed? Dr. Jiho asked. We changed, Hyan said sadly. We became warriors. We valued strength over compassion. We taught our cubs to follow the strongest, not the most caring. Over thousands of years, we lost the ability to recognize true alphas. Until now. He looked at Hana with eyes that had seen centuries of history. You carry the old way inside you. The way we lost. The way most species lost when they climbed toward the stars. Hana didn't know what to say. She looked at the cubs, and they chirped softly at her. The next day, things got complicated. The Zenti Collective sent a formal complaint to the Galactic Council. The Zenti were a proud species who valued logic and order above all else. They saw Hana's influence over the cubs as a threat. Commander Minho Choi, Hana's superior officer, came to her quarters to explain the situation. Minho was an older human with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had trained Hana when she first joined the station security. The Zenti are scared, Minho said bluntly. If humans can be recognized as natural leaders by other species' young ones, it changes everything. Politics, trade, military alliances, everything. But I didn't do anything, Hana protested. I just helped some cubs who were stuck. I know, Minho said. But that's exactly why they're scared. You didn't try to gain influence. You didn't plan this. You just acted on instinct. And that instinct might be humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. He handed her a datapad. Read this when you can. Dr. Jiho has been collecting reports from across the galaxy. Human doctors who alien patients trust more than their own species doctors. Human engineers who crew members follow without question. Human peacekeepers who refugees ask for by name. Hana scrolled through the reports. There were hundreds of them. Thousands, actually. All describing humans who seemed to inspire natural trust and loyalty in alien species. We thought it was just because we were good at our jobs, Hana whispered. It's more than that, Minho said. We genuinely care. Not because we're trying to gain something. Not because it's efficient. We care because something in our nature makes us want to protect and help. Most species evolve past that. We didn't. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the quarters. The cubs jumped up, alarmed. Hana's communicator crackled to life. Captain Kim, report to the council chamber immediately. The Zenti have invoked a formal challenge. Hana looked at Minho. What does that mean? His face was grim. It means they're going to make you prove you're worthy of being called an alpha. Through Valkyrian trials. The same trials their warriors take. But I'm not a Valkyrian warrior, Hana said. No, Minho agreed. You're something they don't have anymore. Someone who protects because it's right, not because it's your job. That's worth more than any weapon. In the council chamber, Ambassador Kree Volume stood beside Throckmur. Across from them, the Zenti ambassador, a tall creature named Sarek, presented the formal challenge. If Officer Kim cannot pass the Valkyrian trials, Sarek said coldly, she must leave this station. The cubs will be sent to a proper Valkyrian academy. Human influence over alien youth will be restricted across all council territories. The chamber fell silent. Every species representative watched Hana. She felt the weight of their stares. Throckmur stepped forward. If she accepts the challenge and succeeds, I will formally request she become guardian trainer to my cubs until they reach adulthood. This is the highest honor my people can give. Hana looked at the three cubs. They had followed her to the chamber and now sat at her feet. The smallest one looked up at her with complete trust in its golden eyes. She thought about refusing. The trials were dangerous. But then she thought about what would happen to the cubs if she walked away. I accept, Hana said clearly. The trial chamber was cold. Hana stood in the center, wearing light armor that the Valkyrians had provided. It felt strange on her human body. Too heavy in some places, too loose in others. But it would have to do. Commander Minho stood outside the energy barrier that surrounded the trial space. He looked worried. Beside him, Dr. Jiho checked his medical scanner every few seconds. The first trial is called the Broken Pack, Counselor Hyan announced. It tests judgment under pressure. You must save your pack members while enemies attack. But you cannot save everyone. Choose wisely. The lights dimmed. Holographic images appeared around Hana. They looked like Valkyrian warriors, but smaller, younger. They were injured and crying out for help. Some were close to her. Others were far away, near the edges of the chamber. Then the enemies appeared. Dark shapes that moved fast and struck hard. They weren't real, but the simulation could still hurt. Hana had signed forms acknowledging she could die in these trials. The first enemy lunged at her. Hana rolled to the side, her security training taking over. She grabbed the closest injured warrior and dragged them toward the safe zone marked by green light. Another enemy came from her left. She blocked with her arm, feeling the impact shake her bones. The hologram felt very real. She kicked hard, and the enemy dissolved. But there were more injured warriors. They called out to her. Some were bleeding badly. Others had broken limbs. Hana had to choose. She looked at each one quickly. Training told her to save the ones closest first. Logic said save the ones who could still fight. But her instinct said something different. Hana ran toward the warrior who was farthest away. This one was smallest and most hurt. Everyone watching gasped. It made no tactical sense. But Hana reached the small warrior and lifted them, even as enemies closed in around her. She fought her way back, taking hits and getting bruises. But she got the small one to safety. Then she went back for another, and another. She chose the most vulnerable first, the ones who couldn't defend themselves. By the time the simulation ended, Hana was bleeding from several cuts. Her armor was dented, but she had saved 6 warriors. 3 older, stronger warriors had not made it. Explain your choices, Counselor Hyan demanded. Hana took a deep breath. The strong could hold on longer. The weak needed help immediately. I saved those who would die first without help. Hyan made that throat sound again. You pass. This is the old way. Protect the vulnerable first. Most warriors try to save the strong, thinking they can rebuild the pack faster. But a pack that abandons the weak is no pack at all. Hana's sister Yuna rushed to her side when the barrier dropped. Yuna worked in the station's communications department. She pressed a medical patch to Hana's worst cut. You're crazy, Yuna whispered. But I'm proud of you. The second trial happened 3 days later. They called it the Dark Hour. Hana had to survive in a hostile environment while protecting something precious. They didn't tell her what the precious thing was until the trial began. The chamber transformed into a dark forest. Cold wind blew. Hana heard strange animal sounds in the darkness. Then she saw it. A small cage with a glowing crystal inside. The crystal pulsed with light like a heartbeat. That crystal represents life itself, Hyan's voice echoed. Protect it. If it breaks, you fail. You may abandon it to save yourself at any time. But if you do, you fail. Creatures emerged from the darkness. They moved toward the crystal, ignoring Hana at first. She understood. She wasn't the target. The crystal was. She was just in the way. Hana grabbed the cage and ran. The creatures followed. She climbed a holographic tree, the cage strapped to her back. The creatures climbed too. She jumped to another tree. They jumped after her. Hours passed. Hana's muscles screamed. Her hands bled from gripping rough bark. The creatures never stopped. They never got tired. Hana realized something. She couldn't run forever. She had to fight. But if she fought, she might drop the cage. She might break the crystal. So she did something unexpected. She found a small cave in a holographic cliff. She wedged herself inside with the cage in front of her body. The creatures couldn't reach the crystal without going through her. They tried. Oh, they tried. Hannah took hits that would have broken bones. The simulation was designed to hurt. But she didn't move. She protected the crystal with her body. Taking damage meant for it. When the simulation finally ended, Hannah could barely stand. But the crystal was intact, still pulsing with light. Why didn't you hide the crystal and draw the creatures away? Counselor Hyan asked. Because they wanted the crystal, not me, Hannah said through painful breaths. If I left it alone, they would have destroyed it. The only way to protect it was to make them go through me first. Hyan nodded slowly. You pass. You understand that true protection means being the shield. Your body, your life, between the threat and the innocent. This is alpha thinking. Outside the trial chamber, something strange was happening. Other species' young ones had started gathering. Small aliens from different worlds sat in the viewing area, watching Hannah. Their parents tried to call them away, but the young ones refused to leave. Dr. Jiho noticed it first. They're responding to her, he told Commander Minho. Not just Valkyrian cubs. All of them. They sensed the same thing the cubs sensed. A true protector. Minho looked at the gathering crowd of young aliens. This is bigger than we thought. The third trial was announced for the next week. It was called the Alpha's Choice. Counselor Hyan explained it simply. You will face an impossible decision. Save one group or save another. You cannot save both. This trial has killed many warriors. Not their bodies, their spirits. Choose wrong, and you will carry the weight forever. Hannah went back to her quarters. The three cubs were waiting, as always. They nuzzled against her, sensing her worry. Yuna sat with her sister late into the night. What if I can't do it? Hannah asked quietly. Then you can't, Yuna said. But I've watched you your whole life. You've never walked away from someone who needed help. Not once. That's not going to change now. Hannah looked at the cubs. They trust me. All these young ones trust me. What if I let them down? You won't, Yuna said firmly. Because that's what being an alpha means. It means doing whatever it takes to protect others. Even if it costs everything. The smallest cub climbed into Hannah's lap and purred softly. She stroked its fur and tried not to think about the impossible choice waiting for her. The trial chamber felt different this time. The air was heavier. Every seat in the viewing area was filled. Representatives from dozens of species had come to watch. Word had spread across the station about the human who might be a true alpha. Hannah stood in the center again. Her armor was repaired, but her body still ached from the last trial. She looked up at the crowd and saw the three cubs sitting in the front row with Throckmur. Behind them, at least 20 young ones from different species waited quietly. The Alpha's Choice, Counselor Hyan began, is the hardest trial. We will simulate a disaster. You must choose who lives and who dies. There is no third option. There is no clever solution. Just choice and consequence. The simulation started. Hannah found herself on a damaged spaceship. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The ship was breaking apart. She saw two groups of people through different windows. On the left, behind a sealed door, were the three Valkyrian cubs. They pressed against the glass, crying. The door was damaged and would take time to open. Time she didn't have. On the right, through another window, was a section filled with station civilians. Humans, aliens, children, and adults. The floor beneath them was cracking. They would fall into space in seconds. A voice spoke through the ship's speakers. I'll breach in 30 seconds. You can save one group. Choose now. Anna's heart stopped. This was impossible. The cubs trusted her. They had chosen her. If she abandoned them, she would break that trust forever. But there were more people in the civilian section. More lives to save. Every Valkyrian watching expected her to choose the cubs. That was the test. Show pack loyalty above all else. That was what an alpha did. But Hannah looked at both groups, and something inside her refused to accept this choice. "No," she said out loud. "You must choose," the voice insisted. 20 seconds. Hannah ran to a wall panel and ripped it open. Her security training kicked in. Every ship had emergency systems, backup power, manual overrides. She just had to find them. 15 seconds, her fingers flew over the controls. She rerouted power from life support to the door mechanisms, both doors. It was dangerous. It might not work, but she had to try. 10 seconds. The door to the Cubs section started to open. Slowly, too slowly. Hannah grabbed a metal bar from the damaged wall and jammed it into the door, forcing it wider. 5 seconds. She ran to the civilian section. The floor was cracking. No time. Hannah hit the emergency force field button. A weak shield appeared under the civilian's feet. It wouldn't hold long, but maybe long enough. Time's up. The simulation froze. Hannah stood between both groups, breathing hard. The Cubs were halfway out their door. The civilians stood on a flickering force field. Silence filled the chamber. Then Counselor Hyan stood up slowly. His old eyes were wide with something that might have been shock or awe. "In 800 years of administering this trial," he said, his voice shaking, "no one has ever tried to save both groups. The simulation is designed to be impossible. There is no solution." "There's always a solution," Hannah said quietly. "Maybe not a perfect one. Maybe not one that saves everyone. But I won't choose to abandon anyone while I still have options." Hyan walked down to the trial floor. He stood in front of Hannah and placed his hand on her shoulder. "This is the Alpha's choice, not which group to save. The choice is whether you accept impossible odds or fight against them. Most warriors choose a group and live with the guilt. True Alphas refuse the choice itself." He turned to address everyone watching. "This is the old way. Our ancestors didn't sort lives by value. They didn't calculate who deserved saving more. They fought to save everyone, even when logic said it was impossible. We lost this. We started making cold choices and called it wisdom. But it was just fear dressed up as logic." Throgmor stood up, tears in his eyes. "My Cubs chose well, better than I knew. But not everyone was happy." Ambassador Sarek of the Zenthi stood up, his voice cold. "This proves nothing. She cheated the simulation. She didn't make a choice. She made the hardest choice of all," Dr. Jiho called out from his seat. "She chose to try impossible odds rather than accept unnecessary loss. That's not cheating. That's hope." Sarek looked around the chamber. "If the Council accepts this, if we allow humans to be recognized as natural alphas, it changes everything. Smaller species will flock to them. Human influence will spread. Our carefully balanced political structures will collapse." Commander Minho stood up. "Maybe they should collapse. My people aren't trying to take over the galaxy. We're just doing what comes naturally. Protecting others. Helping where we can. If that threatens your political systems, maybe your systems are the problem." Arguments erupted. Different species shouted at each other. The chamber descended into chaos. Then something happened that stopped everyone. The smallest Valkyrian cub jumped down from its seat. It walked across the chamber floor, past all the angry adults, and sat down at Ambassador Sarek's feet. The Zenthi looked down at the cub, confused. The cub looked up at him and made a soft chirping sound. Sarek's voice was barely a whisper. "Why does it come to me?" "Because you're sad," Hannah said gently. Cub sensed that. "They want to comfort you." Dr. Jiho pulled up information on his datapad and read aloud. The Zenthi suffered a plague 7 years ago. It killed most of their young. They've been trying to rebuild their population, but it's slow. They have almost no children. Sarek knelt down slowly. He reached out a shaking hand to touch the cub's head. "We lost so many," he said, his voice breaking. "We lost them all, and we couldn't save them. No matter how logical we were, no matter how hard we tried, they died, and we couldn't stop it." The cub pushed against his hand, purring softly. "The cubs don't follow Officer Kim because she manipulates them," Sarek continued, tears now falling. "They follow because they recognize what we lost. The instinct to protect without calculation, to care without measuring worth, to hope when logic says there is none." He looked up at Hana. "I withdraw my challenge. The Zenthi Collective formally recognizes humanity's unique position. We don't need to fear you. We need to learn from you." The Galactic Council chamber erupted again, but this time with different energy. Representatives started talking quickly to each other. Datapads lit up. Messages flew across the galaxy. Councillor Hyan raised his hands for silence. "The trial is complete. Officer Hannah Kim has passed all 3 tests. But more than that, she has shown us something we had forgotten. The galaxy is big enough for hope, for trying impossible odds, for refusing to accept that some lives matter less than others." He looked at Hana with deep respect. "You are Alpha, not just to Valkyrian cubs, to any young one who needs protecting, to any person who needs hope. This is humanity's gift to the galaxy." Throkmer approached with his 3 cubs. "Will you accept the role of guardian trainer to my cubs until they reach adulthood?" Hana looked down at the 3 small faces she had come to love. "Yes, I accept." The cubs chirped happily and surrounded her, their tails swishing with joy. 6 months had passed since the trials. Station Gamma looked different now. The residential sections had been expanded to include special areas where different species, young ones, could learn together. Humans walked through the corridors with small groups of alien children following them, asking questions, playing games, learning about the galaxy. Hana stood in her new office, looking out the window at the stars. Her title was now Director of Interspecies Youth Integration. It was a fancy name for something simple, making sure young ones from different worlds could grow up together safely. The 3 Valkyrian cubs, now twice their original size, lay on cushions near her desk. They weren't babies anymore. Their claws were sharper. Their teeth were longer. But they still followed Hannah everywhere, and she still considered them family. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Yuna entered, followed by a small group of young aliens. There was a Zenthi child, 2 human kids, a Valkyrian cub from another family, and 3 small creatures that looked like floating jellyfish. "These are the new arrivals," Yuna said. She had joined the integration program too, working as a coordinator. "They wanted to meet you." The Zenthi child stepped forward shyly. "My father says you're an alpha. What does that mean?" Hannah knelt down to the child's level. "It means I protect people. All people. No matter where they come from or what they look like. And it means I teach others to do the same." "Can humans really be alphas?" one of the jellyfish creatures asked in a high-pitched voice. "Our teacher said alphas have to be strong and scary." "Being an alpha isn't about being strong or scary," Hana explained. "It's about caring for others more than you care about yourself. It's about refusing to give up, even when things seem impossible. Any species can have alphas. Humans just seem to have more of them." She stood up and looked at Yuna. "Dr. Jiho finished his research, didn't he?" Yuna nodded. 23% of humans test positive for the alpha signal. That's higher than any other species in the galaxy. Most species have less than 1%. Why? The Zenthi child asked. It was a good question. Hannah thought about how to explain it simply. A long time ago, When humans were still learning to survive, we had to work together. We had to protect each other. Families helped families. Strangers helped strangers. If we didn't, we died. So the humans who cared about others, who protected people they didn't even know, those humans survived and had children. And their children had children. And now, thousands of years later, many humans still have that instinct. Other species didn't need that. One of the human children asked. Other species survived in different ways, Hannah said. Some became very strong individually. Some became very smart. Some developed powerful weapons. They didn't need to rely on caring for each other as much. So over time, they lost that instinct. Not completely, but mostly. Commander Minho appeared in the doorway. Am I interrupting? No, sir. Just giving a lesson. Hannah smiled. Minho gestured to the corridor. Walk with me. You too, Yuna. They left the young ones with a human teacher named Borum, who immediately started a game that involved all the species working together to solve a puzzle dot as they walked. Minho spoke quietly. The Galactic Council voted yesterday. They've created a new classification for humanity. We're officially recognized as instinctive protectors. It comes with responsibilities. What kind of responsibilities? Yuna asked. Every council ship, every major station, every colony, they want at least one human on their crew. Not as soldiers, as mediators, peacekeepers, people who can help resolve conflicts and protect the vulnerable. They're calling it the Guardian Initiative. Hannah stopped walking. They want to send humans everywhere? They want to give humans the chance to serve everywhere, Minho corrected. It's voluntary. But the Council believes that having humans present reduces violence and increases cooperation. Dr. Jihos. Data supports this. Stations with humans in key positions have 50% fewer conflicts and 70% faster diplomatic resolutions. Because we care, Yuna said softly. Because you care, Minho agreed. And in a galaxy that often forgets to care, that's invaluable. They reached the main observation deck. Through the massive windows, Hannah could see ships from hundreds of different species docking at the station. Each one bringing more families, more young ones, more hope for a connected galaxy. Dr. Jiho found them there an hour later. He was excited, waving his datapad. You need to see this. I just got reports from the outer colonies. He showed them footage. Humans in medical facilities, surrounded by alien patients who requested them specifically. Humans in schools, teaching mixed species classes where students actually work together instead of staying in species groups. Humans on cargo ships, where crew members from different species voluntarily spend time together instead of isolating. It's spreading, Jiho said. Not because anyone's forcing it. Because it works. Because young ones grow up seeing humans care for everyone equally, and they learn to do the same. We're not conquering the galaxy. We're healing it. Ambassador Krevolium approached their group. The old Valkyrian moved slowly now, but his eyes were still sharp. Officer Kim, I wanted to tell you something before I retire and return to my homeworld. What is it, Ambassador? When the Cubs first followed you, I was afraid. I thought humans might use this ability to manipulate other species. To gain power. He paused. I was wrong. Humans don't want to rule the galaxy. You want to help it. There's a difference, and it matters. Throkmer appeared with his 3 cubs, now nearly adult-sized. They still chirped happily when they saw Hannah. They're graduating next month, Throkmer said proudly. They'll enter warrior training. But they'll carry what you taught them. Protect the weak. Try impossible odds. Never accept that some lives matter less than others. The largest cub stepped forward and spoke in a voice that was now deep and rumbling. You taught us the old way, Alpha Mother. We will teach others. The old way will return to our people because of you. Hannah felt tears in her eyes. You would have learned these things anyway. No, the cub said. We would have learned to be strong, to be fierce, to win battles. You taught us why those things matter. To protect, to serve, to hope. That's the difference. More humans entered the observation deck. Some Hannah knew, like Officer Taiyang, who now worked in the youth program. Others were new arrivals, volunteers for the Guardian Initiative. Each one had tested positive for the Alpha signal. Each one wanted to serve. A small ceremony began. New Guardians received their assignments. Some would go to medical stations, others to diplomatic outposts, some to colony worlds that needed help rebuilding. Each one would carry humanity's gift to their new post. Counselor Hyan, who had delayed his retirement to help establish the Guardian Initiative, spoke to the gathered crowd. Today marks a new era, not of human dominance, but of human service. You go into the galaxy not as conquerors, but as family. Every species you meet, every young one you protect, every life you save, you prove that strength and compassion are not opposites. They are partners. As the ceremony ended, Hannah walked back to the window. The three cubs joined her, as always. Yuna stood on her other side. This is bigger than we ever imagined, Yuna whispered. I know, Hannah said. Sometimes I still can't believe it started, because I pulled 3 cubs out of a maintenance shaft. The smallest cub, now almost as tall as Hannah, made a soft rumbling sound that was their version of laughter. You didn't just pull us out, Alpha Mother. You showed us what it means to be saved by someone who asked nothing in return. That changed everything. Hannah watched ships come and go. Each one carried stories. Each one carried hope. And many of them now carried humans, spreading across the galaxy not with weapons or demands, but with something more powerful. Genuine care for others. Commander Minho joined them one last time. When future generations ask how humanity found its place among the stars, what do you think they'll say? Hannah thought about the question. She thought about the cubs who started it all. She thought about the thousands of young ones now learning together. She thought about the humans volunteering to serve in far corners of the galaxy. They'll say we didn't conquer the galaxy with weapons, Hannah said finally. We did it with kindness, with protection, with refusing to accept that anyone was beyond saving. They'll say humans remembered something other species forgot. That caring for strangers is not a weakness. It's the strongest thing you can do. The 3 cubs chirped in agreement. Around the station, young ones from hundreds of species played together, learned together, grew together. And watching over them, quietly and without fanfare, humans stood guard. Not because they had to, not because they were paid, but because something in their nature, something ancient and powerful, made them want to protect. They don't follow anyone, Hannah thought, watching the cubs. They never have to. But they choose to follow those who would die for them. That's what being an alpha really means, Dot. And as the stars spun silently beyond the window, the galaxy slowly learned what humanity had always known. That hope is not foolish. Kindness is not weak. And protecting the vulnerable is the highest calling of all.